Hey everybody, so let's talk about next season a little bit. Before we get to that though, I just want to say if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Uh, as long as you're a fan of the NHL and a fan of hockey, there are videos here for you. So I'm sure there's something that you'll enjoy on this channel, and I'm going to be doing videos for hopefully a long time to come. So please hit that subscribe button and follow this channel. Alright, so now, it's way too early to be talking about predictions or where teams are going to finish next year, but I think there are some teams that might as well not even show up next season. They are teams that have basically zero shot of making the playoffs. And that there aren't very many of them in the NHL. The parity in the NHL is like not. There's no comparison in any other sport. This is a league where really teams are all over each other in the standings, and there are always surprises every year. Like look at just last year, who had Colorado making the playoffs? Nobody. Who had New Jersey making the playoffs? Almost nobody. So there are surprises every year. There are teams who perform much better than any of us expect them to, and there are teams who completely tank and fall flat on their faces and perform much worse than we expected them to. So it's really hard to say that a team in the NHL is out of it before the season even begins. But I have 5 teams here who I think their season really is over before it even begins. They are going to be fighting not for a playoff spot, but for the first overall pick in next June's NHL draft. So I've broken it up here by division, and turns out 2 divisions, I don't have any teams that are completely out of it before the season even begins. In the Metro, there's no one that I can say their season is completely over before the season starts. I think the Islanders and the Rangers are probably the 2 worst teams in that division, but none of them are so bad that I would tell them not even to bother to show up. Stranger things have happened in the NHL. I don't see the Rangers making the playoffs. I think they're a rebuilding team with still a couple years to go before they get back to being somewhat decent. And the Islanders, I think, unless they fix their goaltending situation, really don't have much of a chance of making the playoffs. But, we've seen stranger things happen, so I'm not going to completely count them out yet. In the Central Division, I can't count any of those teams out. I think Chicago is still the worst team in that division. But last year, a lot of us thought Dallas was going to be actually good, and they ended up being the second worst team in the division and missing the playoffs. So I can't necessarily say Chicago is completely out of it yet. So those divisions, I have nobody that is completely counted out yet. In the Atlantic, we have Ottawa. They are an absolute dumpster fire right now. They have zero shot of making the playoffs. They're probably going to be the worst team in the league next year. Montreal, another dumpster fire. That team is an absolute disaster. I don't see any way that they could possibly change that between now and the beginning of next season. Yes, they have Carey Price, and that he gives them a chance to win every night. But their defense is so putrid. And with Shea Weber out now for a large chunk of the season, I see no way where Montreal even comes close to a playoff spot. And they also can't score goals. Offense is a huge problem there too. So you have offense being a big problem and defense being a big problem. There's no way anything good can come of that. And lastly, Buffalo. Buffalo, they're getting better. They are on the right track. I think they're headed in a decent direction, but they're not even close to being there yet. Rasmus Dahlin will be a huge help for them, but he is not a one-man fix-all. He's still just a kid. He's going to take time to develop. Buffalo will not be anywhere near a playoff spot next year, but I also don't think they'll be one of the 3 worst teams in the league. I think they're a little bit better than that. Central and Metro, I had none, so over to the Pacific. Vancouver, their season's over before it begins. They're another rebuilding team that I think has some good pieces in place, and a team that I think has some quality young players there. But they've added a lot of gritty veterans, Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, to fill out the bottom six, but they're nowhere near a playoff team, and there are much, much better teams in the Pacific Division. I don't think Vancouver's either going to finish last or second to last in that division. And finally, the Arizona Coyotes, another team in the midst of a big-time rebuild. I liked the moves that they're making. I think that they're headed in the right direction, and if they continue on this path, they're going to be a much better team in the future. But next year is not it. They're not even close yet. I think they have a pretty solid defense core, and Antti Ranta showed the second half of last year that he can be a very good starting goalie. So I think they have some good pieces in place. I don't see the whole group being there yet. I don't think they're a last place team the way that they were last year. I think they've gotten better, but I don't think they're anywhere near a playoff spot, especially in this division where you have Vegas, San Jose, LA, Calgary, Anaheim. They're Edmonton looking to bounce back after a disastrous year last year. You have a lot of teams that are closer to being a playoff team than Arizona is right now. So these 5 teams, I think, are just, their season's over before it even begins. They are not making the playoffs next year. These are really the only 5 teams that you can completely count out at this point. And we'll just have to wait and see who else misses the playoffs. Every year there's huge turnover. You look at teams generally don't drastically change in one offseason, so when you're doing predictions and stuff, it's easy to just take like the same teams that are generally good every year to make the playoffs. But there are always 5, 6, 7, even 8 teams that miss the playoffs the year after making it, and 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that missed the year before that end up making the playoffs. So I mean, it's way too early for me to even think about doing predictions, so those aren't coming anytime soon. But it's a very difficult league to predict. Predictions are usually wrong, but I think I'm fairly safe in saying that those 5 teams are not going to be playoff teams next year. So let me know in the comment section below. Do you think I'm wrong about any of those teams? Do you think any of them sneak into a playoff spot? Do you think there should have been more teams on the list? Are there teams other than what I just said whose season's over before it begins? Do you have the Rangers and Islanders in that category? Is Chicago all done? Is another team from the Central all done? Let me know just what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. Check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are in the description. Then keep this channel growing. Spread the word. Tell your friends about it. The more views and more subscribers, the better. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.